Good evening and good afternoon to a few of you. Welcome to the Pro Trade United How to Thrive, Not Just Survive in Uncertain Times webinar. Just wanted to see how everyone's going. If you wanted to post any questions to make sure that your sound and everything's coming through okay, feel free to do so. Just wanted to welcome everyone all across the country to our webinar. Just to give you a brief overview about us as a team and ProTrade. So my name is Gargi. I'm the General Manager here at ProTrade United. And if you're not familiar with us, we provide business advisory and mentoring, specifically to the trades and construction industry. And we primarily exist to help business owners create consistency, clarity, and choice in operating their business. So I can see that there's quite a number of you jumping on, which is great. So if you're not familiar, our presenter is John Mailer.
Hi, everyone.
The CEO of, hi, John. ProTrade CEO and one of Australia's leading authorities when it comes to building a successful, sustainable company in the trade and construction industry, and then also dealing with challenging times. He spent the past 15 years advising over 850 trades business owners and their teams on effective business and personal peak performance. John speaks from street smart, practical experience, and he's a master of dissecting the complex and offering simple steps to have people win at what matters most to them, as you'll see tonight. So if everyone's ready, let's welcome John.
Thanks, Gargi. And listen, I like how you emphasize the word master there. That's putting the pressure on. So thank you for that. Hey, and welcome everybody to this webinar, and in probably some of the most interesting times that I've also experienced in my 25 years of being in business as well. So we have a lot to cover off on the session. So welcome to wherever you are in the country. The goal over the next 45, 50 minutes is to share some simple strategies with you that you can take away, start implementing into your business as early as tonight if you're comfortable with that. And also an opportunity at the end to ask any questions, and we'll see how we go for time, but the opportunity to ask some more general questions, I guess, based on where you're at in your journey at this point in time. So as Gargi mentioned, my name is John Mailer. The key today is just to relax. If you're a webinar junkie and you've done this many, many times, you'll know what's happening. If it's your first time on a webinar, welcome to technology. Welcome to the ability to share and collaborate and connect over the internet. And I tell you what, if you haven't embraced this type of technology or video conferencing with your business or your clients yet, now is the time to do so. There's never a better time to use the technology we've got available. So be open tonight. Take as many notes as possible. If I present a concept or an idea that challenges you, good, because I'm not here to tell you things that you may already know. I may be here to challenge you the things that you know but you aren't doing, or the way you are currently doing things. Because the reality, if you're still running the majority of your business the way you were last week, last month, or even at the start of 2020, you're behind the game. You know, things are shifting and changing exponentially, and I'll show you how you as business leaders need to shift and change like that as well. So be present, turn the technology off. You're going to get a recording. So if there's some ideas or concepts that you want to run by your team or your business partner, if they're not able to be on today, you can do so as well. And we're also going to give you an opportunity to participate and share, because it's not just going to be a monologue and me sharing one way. It's interactive, and I'll give you an opportunity to do that as well. So Gargi mentioned that we are Australia's #1 advisory business supporting the construction and trade business industry, and we work with close to 200 clients around the country, from as far west as Perth to as far north as Cairns and everywhere in between. And primarily it's for one of three reasons. Even through what's going on right now, how to stabilize and streamline your business to give you consistency of income, profit and cash, and that then gives you choice. To scale, if you're wanting to grow the number of projects, vans or teams in your business, how do you do that profitably? And even though right now may not be the time to scale, there are businesses right now that we're working with that are actually hiring to keep up with the demand of the work that they're getting through the crisis and what's happening. And maybe you're at that stage where you want to step back out off the tools, choose a role in the business, or maybe sell the business. We've definitely guided people through that journey as well. So that's where we position ourselves. Some of our clients that we'll have a chat about tonight, some examples of how they're coping and working through the situation at this point in time. But, 40% of our clients are mums and dads, husband and wife teams, and, just good, hard-working Aussie people who just want to do really well in their business and live a successful, happy, simple life. So let me share with you what this session is about tonight. Most importantly, how to think differently about your business and the crisis of what we're going through right now. How we can create a simple yet solid game plan for the next 3 to 6 months. We're not looking long-term here, guys. We're looking about how you can work through the next 3 months and effectively, possibly, and also not just survive, but to thrive and get out the other side is also an opportunity to reposition your business as well. Understand what's important to focus on right now, how to commit to seeing this as an opportunity, and also develop an even better business through this time. What this is not. Okay, I just want to let you know we're not here to cover any of the COVID-19 policies and procedures for your industry. We're not here to cover off on the business stimulus packages and updates and how to use them. Not that they're not valuable, but that is not what this session is about today. It's not about opinions on what's going to happen next, definitely not that. It's not about rescue ideas for your business if it was already struggling leading into 2020, yeah? Unfortunately, there are some businesses that have had to make some really tough decisions in the last couple of weeks because they were behind the 8 ball before the scenario's taken over. And this is not fluff. I'm a straight shooter with this type of guidance and support. I've worked with businesses through the early 2000s when we had a few challenges there, the so-called GFC in the late 2000s locally. I worked with 100-odd clients through the floods that we had in Brisbane in 2011 and 12, which completely turned many of my clients upside down there as well. So even though the situation may be different externally, okay, what we can work with and work on in our businesses is still exactly the same. And there's definitely some patterns that are showing up. So that's what we're going to work through tonight. So if you're up for a bit of that, great. If you're up for all of that, you are definitely in the right space. So this is your chance to say hi. I know Gargi said before, use the chat box, but what I'd love you to do, if you can hear me clearly, say hi. If you want to put in where you are in the country, that'd be great. I know we've got a few people from New Zealand here as well. So if you'd like to say your name, where you're from, and what your business is, that would be terrific. A good chance to start using this technology because, as I said, if you're not embracing online communications, given the restrictions that are out there at the moment, this is a perfect chance to get started. So I'm just going to bring up and have a look about who we've got chatting and saying, and g'day. So we've got Belinda from AWCI Perth, good to see you there. Chris from AquaShield Bathrooms, good on you, Chris. Good to see you on the call. Chris is here from Bellbarry. Great to have a few of our clients on the session as well. Ashley from Hale from has a pool maintenance business in Perth. We've got Kale from Shepparton, Eleni from Sydney, Mark from Melbourne, beautiful there. Michael from Melbourne. We've got Sunshine Coast, Penrith, Victoria, Sunshine Coast, Cootamundra, and great. We've got a truckload of people from around the country. So thanks for saying hi. And as Gargi did mention, through this session, keep chatting, keep posting comments, ask some questions as well, because Gargi is going to work on collating those questions, and we'll see how many we can get through towards the end of this call. So I want to hear from you right now. What's been most challenging, or what are your concerns right now for you and your business in the current situation with COVID-19? What is it that you're facing right now? Please be straightforward, type into that box. I'd love to hear from you personally. What are you finding the most challenging part about all of this? And it could be something for you personally. It could be managing kids at home, at homeschooling, trying to run and look after your parents if they're in the mature and motivated category, if it's connecting with your team, connecting with your clients, is it managing cash flow, is it managing communication? Yeah, just want to hear what's there for you. What's coming up? What are the probably this is leading into what questions would you like answered right now? So Ed's got managing work and family. Thank you for that. Lloyd's got postponement of residential painting works. What do we do if Eleni says if the industry shuts down? Chris has got cash flow. Wayne's got access to sites. Carmen's got slowdown in work. Melissa's got working from home with a 9-month-old. G'day, Melissa. I know I'll be catching up with you tomorrow in one of our sessions. Worried about business drying up, says Ashley. And the cash flow again. What are we going to do as we're growing and have heaps of works? So, again, some people are on the opposite side of that: incoming cash, keeping our staff employed, our correct marketing strategy, customer spending is slow, job leads. So, what I'm getting from that? What I'm getting is that we're all in this and we can all relate to each other. And the work that we've been doing with our clients, like we've got a group tomorrow that I'm running. It's our master's group. 3 weeks ago, I think Australia only had 50. I was looking at the numbers. We only had 50 people infected 3 weeks ago. And so we went through a whole lot of what-if strategies with that group. Now, 3 weeks later, we're catching up tomorrow. Hasn't that world shifted and changed dramatically? And I know some of the what-if strategies we ran through in that session were perfect for what we're experiencing right now. But I get that we're all relatable in one way, shape, or form. Now, for those of you who have been on a webinar before with me, you will know this is one of my favorite quotes. And Jim Rohn, although he's no longer with us, shared with me when I saw him in a seminar going back 20 years ago, is don't whinge, moan, and complain about how tough life and business is. Don't wish it was easy, just wish you had better skills. And so one of the things I want you to think about is what are the skills that this environment is now forcing you to have to grow and evolve and develop in. And you can either shirk away and hide, or you can embrace this as your opportunity to shine. And how you handle yourself right now can be a great opportunity to see how people relate to you on the other side of this. So we're going to keep this super, super, super simple. I'm not a big fan of complicated processes or ideas or concepts. Yeah. Gargi didn't mention, but I used to be a sheep shearer going back about 25 years ago. One of my past past lives, I come from, a sort of a country background. I like to keep it simple. Nothing too complicated excites me. So we're going to keep it super simple, but it may not be easy. So here's the key. You've got to get that simple may not necessarily be easy. You may have to make some really challenging decisions, some hard decisions, have conversations with people that you've never had before in ways that you've never had them before. But it's not going to be complicated, I can guarantee you that. We're going to focus on 3 things. As I said, I like simplicity and I like the rule of 3. So we're going to talk about the reality. We're going to talk about where you could be and should be and I think need to be focused right now, and also what is your strategy moving forward. So again, that's what we're going to cover off on tonight. So here's the reality. And for many of you, this could be the reality or the wake-up call that either has you look at ways to reinvent your business, because if you have been coasting with the wind at your back and blue skies and growing, then this is the opportunity to go, wow, maybe it's not always like that. We've got a few clients that I've been working with who've only been in business 4 or 5 years, and we've guided them through from the early days to where they are now. And they have had an influx of quality work, a quality team. We've guided them that way. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh my goodness, this is something I've never experienced before. So with that, what we're seeing is a lack of uncertainty and a lot of uncertainty in so many different areas. So what I really see, the things that you can be certain about, is no one really knows what is going to happen next week, next month. We've got people talking about it's going to be a 6-month waiting game. We're going to have to deal with what we're dealing with right now, depending what state you're in, as far as the isolation goes and the guidelines around, connecting socially in public. Is that going to last a month? Is it going to be 3 months? Is it going to be 6 months? No one really knows. So we've just got to agree on that. Secondly, what I do know, it will pass. Yeah, it will pass. And on the other side of this, there will be some tremendous lessons and learnings if you're open to that. And I also know from working with businesses through challenges like this before, that some will survive and only a few will thrive. So where we want to have you positioned is, how can you be one of those businesses that really do thrive on this, on the other side of things? So, most of the time we tend to work with clients for sort of on a 12 to 24 month game plan. That's where we like to look. What's the next couple of years look like? The reality is, at the moment, it's really 3 to 6 months. If you're focused on I mean, if you've got a game plan that you started at 2020 and you're still trying to stick with that original game plan, there could be some upset there because it may not work out the way you'd like to. But we've got to really shift focus to the next 3 to 6 months. That's the reality. Now, what I do know is some people will do a few things. Some people will dabble, some people, make a few changes here and there, and they'll sort of muddle their way through it. Some people will do nothing and they'll be gone. That's a fact. I was chatting to a business owner a couple of weeks ago. He says, I'm just working out when I'm going to have to close my business. And I said, hang on a sec, where has that thought come from? Because let's look at what is possible. Now, here's the reality. There are plenty of people who have already waved the white flag and are going to have to give up. Now, I'm not talking about other industries outside of the trade and construction in this webinar, because there are other people who have been forced to close. But in trade and construction, it's a little bit different. The country really relies on a lot of the services that you guys provide. But again, some people are waving the white flag thinking that they're going to have to give up. I don't believe so. There are ways to work your way through this. And then there's other people who are going to see this as an opportunity to go, you know what? Yeah, it's challenging, it's tough. The 2020 game plan is out the window. What do we need to shift and change? And the word I'm going to use later on is pivot. How do we keep the long-term focus, be fixed on where you want to be? Don't give up on the dream. But how do we shift and be agile in the short term as well? The interesting word when it comes to crisis, and I don't mind using the word crisis because my context around crisis could be completely different to other people's. And my viewing platform with that is the opportunity, because written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity. So again, yes, there could be danger, but which way do you want to view this? Do you want to see it as danger, 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 or you go, wow, opportunity, opportunity, opportunity? And one thing that history will tell us over the last 100 years, through the two world wars, the Great Depression, and even more recently in the recession of the 80s, that has been the greatest shift in wealth globally after those so-called crises. Remember the two world wars, the Great Depression around the 40s, and then even in the 80s. When people look back and take advantage of those scenarios, there's been a huge shift of wealth. Now, we're not talking billions of dollars for you guys, but we could be talking millions of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of opportunities there if you're willing to look for what they are. The other thing that I really love, and one of my favorite quotes, is that crisis doesn't create character, it reveals it. What's your character showing right now? What's it revealing in you? Again, crisis, scenarios requires crisis leadership. The other thing is some people who otherwise are pretty intelligent do very, very dumb things. Now, that photo is obviously representation. And on a side note, I was chatting to my PA in the Philippines last week, and I said to June, she said to me, John, what is it with about this toilet paper thing in Australia? And I said, I don't know, June. Really, I don't know. I said, what is it in Manila, in the Philippines? She said, it's alcohol. She said, because most of our alcohol is imported. Everyone's clearing the shelves of alcohol. In America, it's guns. Isn't that interesting? So what I want you to get is there are a lot of scared, there's a lot of angry, there's a lot of frustrated, there's a lot of disillusioned people out there who are behaving in an unconscious way right now. Yeah, they're unconsciously by default behaving this way. They're not really thinking things through. So you've got to get that is going on externally, but ideally not with you. So that's what I want you to think about. That's the reality of what's going on. Secondly, and let's not shy away from the reality, there are things going on out there, but what can we focus on? And this is really what I want you guys to take away, particularly with this session. What you focus on is not what you say yes to. What you focus on is what you say no to. Right now, you are probably being bombarded every minute of the day with questions that you do not know the answers to. I was chatting with one of our clients this afternoon. He says, mate, I'm just mentally tired every day. We've got plenty of work on. It's not about winning new work, but I am exhausted. And I said, I bet it's because you're making so many new decisions now that you've never had to make before. And he said, that's exactly right. Listen, I'm finding it exactly the same as a business owner. We've had a lot of shifts in the last 2 to 3 weeks. And there's questions that we're asking that we haven't got the answers to. There's decisions we've got to make, not just personally in our homes, but about our business, about our team, about our relationships. So now is really critical on what you need to say no to, because if it's not going to support you through the next 3 weeks, 3 months, it's probably not relevant right now. So here's what I want you to think about. And for some of our clients, you would have seen this, but I'm going to reiterate it because I still think it's one of the most powerful tools you can have in your toolkit right now. I want to talk about 3 circles. The first one is we call it our circle of control. And with so much going on externally in our lives that, let's face it, we have no control over, it's really important to know what it is that you can control. Yeah. What it is that you can be in control of every single minute of the day. That would be super valuable. Yeah. So here's what they are. 3 things. What are you thinking? How are you behaving? And what action are you taking? It's no more complicated than that. Our thoughts lead to our behavior, and our behavior can then lead into our actions. So our thinking can be infected in so many different ways, and I'm going to show you how that can be the case. That if you are in control of your thoughts, what am I thinking right now? Am I coming from a space of scarcity or abundance? Am I about trying to control everything, or maybe I've just got to be a bit more fluid with how life is? How am I showing up for my family? How am I showing up for my team? How am I showing up for my customers? My behavior every minute of the day is something that I have control over. And then what activities and what actions can I take right now? Because a lot of the time it's not about what actions to take next week, because that could change. And by the way, everything, a little disclaimer, everything and anything could change tomorrow. So we've just got to prepare and play around with that. But I trust this makes sense. What can you control is your thinking, your behavior, and your actions. We then have another circle around this, and this is our circle of influence. Now, something we can't control, but we can either influence, I would call it 2 different ways: a positive that works and negative that doesn't work. Not right, wrong, good or bad. It either works or it doesn't. And one of the things in my definition of leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. And we get to shine. Crisis leadership is required right now. And crisis leadership is all about influencing in the best possible way. It's about slowing down internal time, not external time, internal time, and doubling down on a lot of the ways we can increase consciousness. So we can influence. And who can we influence? Well, we can influence our family, our team, and our customers. We can influence our family, our team, and our customers. Now, I want to give you an example. One of the clients I was chatting to this afternoon, on Monday we were talking, he just, one of his jobs, he's a painter, doing an external paint on a 3-story high-rise block of units here in Brisbane. And he rang and he said, listen, they've just pulled the job. I was due to start next week. It was going to feed me, for want of a better word, for the next 4 to 5 weeks in the team. And they've just pulled it. And I said, why did they pull it? And he says, well, I'm not really that sure. And I said, well, remember when we caught up last week, how we can influence and support our clients to make decisions that are probably more rational than emotional. I said, how about we go back? So I did some work to structure a conversation with him. He rang back. He really got to understand the situation. He reassured the body corporate team that they were going to take all of the precautions, and it's got to be done at some time. And what better time to do an external paint versus an internal paint? He rang me back today and he said, you know what, the job's still on. I said, perfect. So here's a chance for you to lead and influence. Remember, your family, your team, and your customers. Now, the biggest stress happens when you try and control the things that you can only influence. You try and control your family, your team, and your customers. Reality is you can't, but that can cause you a lot of stress if you go there. Now, the third circle is interesting, is what we call the circle of concern. And what is the circle of concern? Everything else. Everything else out there. And my question to you is, where has your focus been over the last 3 to 4 weeks? What have you allowed to distract you, to take you on a journey versus looking at what you can control? So this is my opinion, and my recommendations is that with the circle of concern, everything else out there, limit your conscious choice of the information and get the facts. Not opinions, not media, not what people are writing up on social, and all of those different mediums that can be so addictive to tap into. So what I do every day is I get the facts from a number of different sites. Okay, so I go back, if we have a look at our circle of concern, where I get my facts, and you may want to go to these spaces as well, is I go to the health.gov.au website. So this graph was as of 3 o'clock this afternoon. And what it showed is in the last 24 hours, for the first time in last week or two, there's been under 300 new cases in this in the country. I was saying to my wife on Wednesday, I think this curve may be flattening out. I don't know, but let's watch this space. So the reality is, from what I see, the facts are things are starting to flatten out slowly. It doesn't mean what's happening right now will end, yeah, but it means that there's a shift. The treasury.gov.au, people talk about what's available for the stimulus packages and for business and that. Get the facts, go to the fact sheets, and then work through with your accountant or your bookkeeper on what you can get through. Worldometer tells me what's going on globally with this. If I want to get numbers and stats from countries, I don't go to the news sites, I go to the facts. And the last and most important place to go to for support around policies and procedures is your industry body. So if you're a member of Master Plumbers, AWIC, the Dulux Accredited Program, go to those guys. That's what they're there for, to help you and get the support through that. So let's go back just to this last circle. I get what most people are doing is spending 80% of their time in the circle of concern, and it's done unconsciously. They're not consciously doing that, they're doing it unconsciously. I was speaking to someone last week and I said, how's work going? He says, I cannot believe it. They've got the TV going on all day, every day in the background. I said, how's the work environment? He says, no one is getting anything done. Everyone is stressed out. I said, what can you influence in that space? Yeah, what can you go to take on? He says, I'm going to go back tomorrow. I'm going to make sure we turn that off. Perfect, because there was an unconscious consumption. So my recommendation for you is to take 80% of your time each and every day looking at what you can control and what you can influence. And then consciously choose going to that circle of concern, get your facts, be educated, get updated, and then come back to the area of control. I trust that makes sense. Not complicated, but it's not necessarily easy either. And last but not least, we're going to talk about your strategy. Now, your strategy is pretty simple. Not easy, but it's simple. We want to look at right now what we can do to protect what you've created and spent the last year, 12 years, 25 years, depending on how long you've been in business, 25 years, and how do you protect that? And also, how do you prepare for the other side of things? Yep, so what are you protecting right now? And let me get some context around protection. Protection is not, coming from a space of scarcity and not letting anybody else in and not spending any money and, fighting off the competition. Now is not the time to go into that space. Now is the time to collaborate, to connect, to be in touch and protect the relationships that you've already built. And then we've obviously got the preparation phase. So that's what we're going to move on to next. So I trust there's been some value so far. What I'd love to see is what's been valuable in the first sort of 20, 25 minutes of what we've covered off on. What has come up for you that you feel you could take away, work with your team on, work with your family on? What can you control? What are the things that you have seen may have been missing in the way you're approaching things right now? So I'm going to give you 20 or 30 seconds to do so, and then we will be back to keep the show going and looking at how to help you craft your strategy for the next 3 to 6 months. Away you go. All right, let us have a look at what's come up. Thank you so much. So let's have a look-see here. So, Treasury website, much better than the ATO, says Jordan. Circle Vision, thanks, Jamie. See it as an opportunity, not a threat. Good on you, Brock. Where to focus, says Ashley. A resource for monitoring the situation, there's BI there. Thank you. Circle of concern equals my wife. Great advice there, John. Thanks, Adam. Good to have you on the call, mate. Team and customer. I'm just looking at a few other things that are coming on there. Circle of vision, love it. Thinking controls everything. Keeping on top of stimulus and cash flow. Getting everybody into the, into your circle of control. I can control my thoughts only. Get the facts and time to reflect on our procedures moving forward. Thank you so much for what you're putting up there. So let's keep things moving. So it's time to look at 3 aspects of your strategy. We're going to talk about your community, we're going to talk about your customers, and we are going to talk about your team, your cash. So firstly, even though this is not what people think is one of the areas that they really need to focus on right now, your community is everything. Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters most is our relationship. So what I want you to think about is, how do I protect your mind, your body, and your soul and your sanity? And we've already talked about one of those things. Focus on the circle of control. And how do you protect your family and your team relationships? Your people, it's all about the who that's going through this. You and your family, your team, if you can connect and work through that, the key is on the other side of things, you will have even stronger and better relationships. So I talked about crisis leadership right now. And I want to talk about it not just for community, but also for your customers and your cash. Now is the time to double down on your communication. You want to up the ante around how you're communicating, most importantly with your family. How are you doing that? Are you really connected, or you're just living under the one house with everybody on their technology at this point in time? But most importantly, with your team. So let me tell you about with our team. So we generally have a weekly huddle on a Tuesday morning. What we're actually doing at the moment, because most of the team are working remotely, we're doing a Zoom catch-up on Wednesdays and Thursdays as well. So we're doing a little 10-minute catch-up first thing in the morning, first thing in the afternoon, and on Wednesday and Thursday. With our team of coaches and advisors, I've probably spoken to them more in the last 3 weeks than I have in the last 3 months. So checking in, what support do you need? This is where we're going. This is the new support structures we're putting in place for clients. Just upping the ante, upping the frequency of your communication. So keep that in mind. Now, how do you prepare? So one of the things I want you to think about is, a lot of the time with our family and our team, there's a lot of conversation going on. And I mentioned before, how do you think and behave? And how do you influence your team and your family? So what I want you to think about before going into a conversation or into a meeting, prepare yourself on how you're going to show up and who are you going to be for them. Yeah, versus just going in and being the thermometer to what's happening. How do you go and be the barometer? The barometer predicts the thermometer. Yeah, the barometer goes in and lays the foundation for what is to come. So prepare for these and surround yourself at this point in time with competent, clear-minded, and positive people who are seeing this as an opportunity. They're not hiding away from the reality. They're not being Pollyanna. They're dealing with the facts. But at the end of the day, it's about now your circle of trust and your circle of influence for yourself is more important than ever. So, number one, protect and prepare your community. Now, we want to talk about your customers, or your customer, if you've got one, but multiples of there. And we've got 3 aspects of your customers. We've got your existing customers, we've got your future customers, and we've got your suppliers. I put them all under the same banner. Yeah. Now, we've been working diligently with our clients over the last 3 weeks to make sure that they're protecting the existing relationships of the customers that they've worked hard to get in place over the years, and also over the last months. So it's now time for extra care. It's now time to double down on your communication and manage your reputation. Because remember, no communication is in fact a form of communication. Yeah. And at this point in time, I'm going to say that probably no communication is actually saying, I don't actually really care. So what we're recommending for our clients, and you can take this on, is print out a list of all of your clients. Identify maybe your top 20 or 30% of them. Jump on the phone and call. Check in, not to get more work, but just to check in to say, I care. Can I be of support? Have you got any extra, areas that you need some help with right now? Not asking to charge, but just to support. Because how you handle yourself through this with your customers will set you up on the other side, possibly for years to come. So look at ways you can be on the phone, connect with your existing customers, and protect the relationships you've built over the last few years. And then how do you prepare for the other side of this? Because I said earlier, we will get through this. How do you want to be remembered? As someone who cared, made the effort to collaborate, to connect, increase the frequency of communication. And now is the time not to keep selling the old products that you've always been selling. Because if your marketing and your sales process is the same as it was a week ago, a month ago, even at the start of the year, you are behind the game. You've got to start solving new problems for your customers. So how do you find out what those problems are? Again, you've got to be on the phone. But I'm going to share with you a strategy that I chatted with a client early this week. So he's a residential electrician. And he said, listen, the phone has stopped ringing. It's not as busy, and I'm a little bit unsure how things are going to go. I said, well, if the phone's not ringing, you're not answering it, you can be on the phone calling. And he said, yeah, I guess so, but what do I do? I said, well, tell me who your top 20% clients are. And he said, I work with our body corporates and property managers. I said, perfect. Okay, have you ever done a Zoom session? And he said, yeah, I did one last week. It was really cool. I've never used it before. I said, here's a strategy. Call all of your top 20% on the phone. Mention that you are going to set up a Zoom connection to get all of your body corporates or property managers together and connect them. Okay, you're going to do it as a connection so they can be talking about how they're handling it with each other as an industry. And you being the electrician, what I want you to set up is how you can listen in, understand what the problems are that they're dealing with right now, and then look at new ways to serve them. Because remember, the problem is never really the surface problem. It's always the problem underneath. He got really excited. He said, yeah, I could have 5 or 6 of them on a Zoom call at once. I said, it's almost like taking them out for coffee or taking them out for lunch. Now, you don't actually have to pay for lunch there and then, but you could connect and collaborate and contact those guys, bring them together. So another way just to think about how you can bring your customers and prepare for the other side of this at the same time. So protect now and prepare for the other side. So keep that in mind. What are you doing to look after and nurture and also take things onto the other side? Now, one of the things that we talk about, and this is probably the word of the moment, is how do I pivot? And what I mean by pivot is how do I keep the long-term vision, but also modify what we're doing right now? Listen, I'm just going to share personally what we're doing. You know, we typically set up a structure to work with clients for sort of 12 months and a bit beyond, because that's the game that they like to work. People aren't thinking of 12 months right now. They're thinking of 3 months, possibly 6 months at the most, yeah? So we've had to pivot and change, and we've created something that allows us to work with clients and new clients for the next 3 months. It's a short-term thing. Let's work through this together, and we've doubled down on our communication. So again, when we normally catch up with clients maybe once or twice a month, we're now connecting with them, most of them each week, just to see how they're going, what extra support that they need. And we realize that's what, you know, industry needs right now as well. So how do we shift and change? Well, that's what we've done. How do we double down on the communication? That's what we think we should be doing as well. So for yourself, this requires what we call some crisis marketing, and it also requires that leadership that I talked to you about before. The number one thing that people have going on right now is this uncertainty, and they're living in fear. Your role is to take it from fear to certainty. That's what your leadership role right now is. Marketing in this situation is not about going out and getting. It's going out, supporting and giving, offering value, listening, and provide as much certainty as you possibly can for your customers and your future customers. So are you selling or are you solving? As I said, your goal right now is not to sell the same stuff that you've always done. You may have that involved, but you may want to look for other opportunities in the marketplace as well. So we're working with a company that's a high-end AV installation company. Their market traditionally is cinemas, larger entertainment complexes, and obviously they've all been shut down. So one of the things we're looking at is, can we pivot their marketing? Who else needs AV installation and the technical expertise that you have right now? Obviously everyone's at home, okay? Wi-Fi is being challenged, extenders are needed, AV setup is required, connectivity, getting everybody sorted. So the potential there for high-end residential, where people are busy running their businesses, they don't have the time and don't want to and don't know how to do it themselves. How do you shift? Now, here's the thing. It could be short-term, but there could be an amazing opportunity in this for the long term if you're prepared to think differently. Here's one of the things right now. If you are so fixed on keeping your business and your model the way it has always been, I'm guaranteed you will struggle. But if you are prepared to be committed for the long-term outcome and be flexible with how that looks and not attached with how that looks right now, and be prepared to do what it takes to serve your target audience or the broader audience with your expertise, you will not just survive, you could and possibly thrive on the other side of this. This is when you will uncover some amazing opportunities. The number one, I says, currency right now is trust. Okay, because let's face it, if we all lost our money tomorrow, the number one thing, if we had to start up again, was and is trust. So what are you doing to build trust? And you do that through connecting, collaborating, adding value, supporting, and looking at ways to serve your customers like you have never served them before. So we need to be agile while fixed on the end. We've got to combine high tech with high touch. Now is not the time to send blanket emails. You know how many emails you've received in the last 3 weeks. I've had more emails in the last 3 weeks, I think, than the last 3 years. And I'm deleting 80% of them. So that's what's going to happen. If you blanket email your database and say, here we are, we're here to help you, it ain't going to work. Pick up the phone. If it's not calling, if it's not ringing, now's the time to do so. Maybe get one of your better communicators who's usually on the tools and get them in the office to help you connect. I guarantee it will pay off. Okay, the follow-up in person is what brings the trust in and also keeps it there as well. So get on the phone, not email. Serve first, uncover problems, fix them fast. Don't expect anything right now, and make sure you deliver your value. So I trust that's making sense. Last but not least, we're going to talk about your cash. Yeah. Before we talk about your cash, just want to hear from you. What have you found valuable when we looked at protecting and preparing your community and your customers right now? Please type into the comment section. I think there's a few questions coming up, and I know Gargi's looking at those, and we'll see how we can go answering those. So I'd love to see what you have found valuable so far, just to check that I'm giving you something that you can get your teeth into. Please just type into the comment section. That'd be great. Phone, not email. Makes sense. Thanks, Jennifer. Make it a pivot game now. Create confidence. Thanks, Jace. Good to see you on the call too. Stuart's got communication, communication, communication. Double down. Now's the time not to be shy. Yeah. Now is the time to rise up. Same old way, same old results. Yeah. How do we look for new opportunities? You know, we don't have repeat customers. We could probably look at that in a tick. Time to bond with family. Listening to the facts is about controlling those situations. A few more just coming through as well. Awesome to see. Let the leader lead and set the tone. Perfect. You know, call but don't expect anything. Perfect. Don't bring. How refreshing is this? You know, and you know, Pete said this. How refreshing is this? You get a call from someone who says, hey, listen, I'm just touching base. I want to see how things are going for you. How are you handling things? How are your clients handling things? How are your family handling things? I just want to see if there's any way we could help out and connect, looking to collaborate and support. How refreshing would that be, given everything else that's going on at the moment? So beautiful. Lovely. You know, Chris, great comment there. Give them something for nothing without expectation of anything. And now is the time to double down. What could you give away for free that no one else is doing? What could you give away for a fee that people go, wow? And we're going to talk about how to get cash in a second. Be strategic with your marketing, says Lee. Building trust. Thank you. Eleni says, you know, building trust, be caring and a strong leader in the industry and the community. Thanks, Timothy. Hey, great work. So I trust there's some things you can get your teeth into there. And we're going to talk about this last little bit because, hey, cash is really what is important at the moment. So I want you to think 3 things about your context with cash. Keep it moving. Now is not the time to just hoard and hold on to everything. Money is energy. My philosophy is you've got to keep it flowing, but do it responsibly. It's not the time to stockpile everything. Now is the time to also make sure it's going into the right places. Communication in and out will also equal cash in and out. Okay, if you have no communication out, particularly to suppliers or customers, it's also going to impact cash in and out. And I want you to be really discerning between the cost and an investment. You know, you have to understand, yes, isn't it now to be smart with your costs. If you're not getting a return on that, it could be a good time to remove those costs. So let's have a look. Protect. Spend only the aspects that I want to say here that will either make you or save you cash. Cut costs, but not value. So if you haven't got your P&L out in the last week, now is the time to print it out. Talk to your bookkeeper or your accountant. By the way, if you don't know your numbers now, there's no better time to get to know your numbers. We've been working with our clients on and off for years saying that the numbers tell the story and the story is in the numbers. Be intimate with those because they will help you in times like this. Yeah. Cut costs, not value. And are you making the hard decisions now that your future self will thank you for? So what I want you to think about, there are definitely things that you're spending money on that are not going to give you a return this week, next week, or maybe even in a few weeks' time. For example, if you've got advertising, you know, that is doing the same old message that you've been doing for the last 3 months or 3 years, stop that because that marketing message will go over people's heads. It will be not filtered in any way, shape or form. You're better off taking that money, bringing it in-house, calling people and being in touch with the high tech. So little things that you can work on. But if you're got a money that you're paying out that's either going to help you make more money or save you money, that's going to be more of an investment. So I want you to be discerning around that. Rather than blanket cutting everything, you want to make sure that, yes, you work with your bookkeeper, your accountant, all of those things that are in your trusted circle are important right now. And you may need to make some hard decisions that aren't going to be popular. But, you know, in my own business, in the challenges that we've had over the last 20 years as a business owner, I've put off making some of those tough decisions, and it's come back. And I wish, and I call it death by 1,000 cuts. If you do a little bit now, a little bit now, a little bit now, sometimes you're better off cutting hard and cutting deep and cutting early. But again, if you need some support around that, we're here to help you. The other part is prepare. Now, your business cash flow, know your numbers. One thing we're doing with all of our clients at the moment is ensuring that they know exactly where they're going to be week by week for at least the next 12 to 16 weeks. Having a look at what's in the bank now, what's your expected costs coming up, your expenses, paying for materials and contractors on jobs that you're doing right now, having a look at what you've got coming in, and then what have we got left. But if you're not doing that, if you're just looking at your bank account and going, well, if I've got money in the bank, I'm okay, you may not be around in 3 months' time. We've got some clients that have forecast out for 6 months of no change. Then what I want you to do is forecast on 100% of the expected income, 75, 50, 25 in, and maybe zero. What is your bare ass minimum that you need to keep your doors open? And then what we want to do is help you look at ways to delay cash leaving and increase cash coming in. So some simple things here, some strategies that a couple of our clients, we've worked with them on over the last couple of weeks. So we had one plumbing contractor. He owed $30,000 to his supplier. Cash was drying up. And even though he had the cash to pay, what we looked at doing is how could we support the supplier and support him right now? So you want to make it win-win. So what we did, we structured a phone call. He rang the supplier and he said, listen, I know I owe you $30,000. What I'm looking at doing is I want to preserve our relationship. I want to be definitely working with you over the next 3 to 6 months. I've been with you for 5 years. And as you know, I've always paid my accounts on time. What I'd love to look at a way is if I can pay you some now, some next month, and some the month after that, but I want to pay you 10% more. So instead of paying you $30,000, I'd like to pay you $33,000. But if I can pay $11,000 this week, $11,000 in May, and $11,000 in June, that would be fantastic. So the supplier went back and talked to his manager, came back and said, yes, happy days, because you want to keep as much cash in your account right now. The other thing you may want to consider is how do you incentivize your clients and customers to pay you early? So another consideration is that if you've got people who owe you money, but it's still at 30 or 60 days, depending on the terms that you've got, you may want to jump on the phone and say, hey, listen, we'd love to give you an incentive to pay a little bit earlier. Now, we're normally not a big fan of discounting, okay, but this is an extraordinary situation, and cash in your bank now is better than not in your bank. So one of the things you could consider is offering a discount of some sort to get your customers to pay you early. If there's a way that they can pay you now, pay you this week, pay you next week, instead of paying you in 30 or 60 days' time, now is the time to do it. So again, it's win-win. You want to protect the relationship for the other side of this. You're collaborating, you're connecting and working together. So they're just a couple of things to consider when we're looking at protecting and also preparing for your cash. There's obviously dozens of other things, and we're working and got some collective strategies coming with our team and our coaches every single week at this point in time. So I want to take just a breath of air. I think I've been going pretty much non-stop for the last 45 minutes. So I know there's been some value there, and we're going to do some Q&A in a minute. I know Gargi's been making note of some of the questions that we've got coming in. But before I do that, one of the things that we recognize the next 3 to 6 months is pretty valuable for every business owner. And many business owners never experiencing something like this before. It's foreign territory. And with so much going on, what decisions do I need to make? And so what we've recognized is a lot of the things that you've heard tonight may not make sense. You understand it intellectually, agree with the principles, and can get excited about what's possible and know it's the next thing they should do. But what gets in the way is this thing, the tornado of life right now, yeah? The whirlwind of what is going on. As soon as you get off this session, when you wake up in the morning, the rings, the dings, the news, the noise, everything is there. Now, the great news is we've got a great team, and I've got 3 advisors and coaches that I've been working with now for 12 years, at least 12 years, and they've been and worked with businesses through these challenging times, and they are excited about the ways they can add value. So if you're feeling like every day is a bit like this, I hope I'm heading in the right direction, I hope I can get through the day or the week, then let us support you. So what we're going to offer is everybody on this call, we'd love you to give you the opportunity to sit down with one of our team and have a look at guiding you or supporting you on some of the choices and decisions that you can make over the next month, 2 months, 3 months ahead. If you haven't got clarity about what steps to take, we'd love to support you and help you with that. So what this session looks like, sitting down with one of the team, having a look at the reality of where things are right now, what pivoting decisions you may need to make with your marketing or your customers, how to help you protect some of that cash and maybe prepare for what's coming. And if we can't help you directly, we want to point you in the right direction. So if that feels like that could be of value for you, regardless of where you are in the country right now, regardless if you're in lockdown at home or you're working from your office, obviously we have the technology to support and connect with you on that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up a little questionnaire, and this is going to ask a question. It's going to, would you like to learn more about having one of these strategy sessions with the team? If that excites you and you'd love to connect, just tick yes. If it's you're sorted, you're okay, you feel you've got everything lined up and ready to go, it's okay, tick no. Or if you'd like some more information, just put unsure there. So I'm going to launch that poll now. And up on your screen, you'll see, yes, no, or unsure. If it's a yes, fantastic. So I'm just going to keep it there for 30 seconds or so, and then we'll bring it back. And we're going to go into some Q&A with Gargi and see what's come up and see if I can give you some general guidance and support based on my experience and our team's experience. And if it's more specific, maybe there's an opportunity to answer that question with you directly as well. So I'll give you just another 10 seconds. If you'd like an opportunity to chat with one of the team, worst case scenario, it's been good just to chat with someone else who understands exactly what's going on. Okay, another 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. All right, so from here, Gargi, are you back online? I think I saw you pop up.
Yes, I am here.
Beautiful.
Thanks for a great session, John.
That's quite okay. How do we go? We've got a few questions that have come through.
Yeah, I've got quite a few coming through, so I'll just I'll kick off. So everyone who's still on the session, feel free to post some more. But one of the most popular ones that have come through, John, is I have some customers who are not paying. What do you suggest?
Yeah, that's been an interesting question that's popped up a few times with some of our clients as well. So what we've done is we've structured that a conversation. So one of the things we like to structure conversations, because most people have never had to necessarily make a call and ask for money. I probably think 95% of people don't wake up in the morning going, I can't wait to get on the phone and call people who owe me money and track it down like a hound dog. Some people get excited about that, by the way, but most people don't. So it's about how to structure those conversations. So we talk about making sure you value yourself. This is one of those tough decisions that your future self will thank you for. Yeah, you have to think about, what are the things that I'm avoiding right now that is going to take me out of my comfort zone, that I've never done before. I've never had to make these calls and ask for money in the way that I'm asking right now. So we have a structured way to do those calls. Really, it's talking about the objective of the call, what's the current reality, telling your whole truth around what's going on for you, and looking at some options. Because I really think that, yes, you want to maintain relationships with customers and suppliers as well through this. Yeah, it's a relationship. Not to coin the phrase, but we're on the journey and we want to work through this together, not individually. So as I mentioned earlier, Gargi, one of the things that we've been saying is jumping on the phone, acknowledging the fact, not making people feel bad or wrong for not paying the bill. You don't want to, this is not the time to go at people. this is the time to be on the same side of the table and look for some solutions together. Understand their scenario, their situation, and work through it together. So one of the things I said before is checking with the person who owes you money, giving them an incentive if they can pay early. There's a discount involved because that bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Get the money in. Working out ways and putting payment plans in place, understanding their cash situation, being open and vulnerable and sharing the same thing too with yourself. You say, hey, listen, we're all dealing with the same uncertainty right now. I get it. I've got concerns, you've got concerns, but hey, listen, let's just keep the communication channels open. Now's not the time to, get demand letters out and the debt collectors on the phone. But here's the thing, if not that isn't an option, particularly if people aren't returning calls, aren't in communication, and are avoiding your communication. I'd like to think that's a last-ditch effort at this point in time. But jump on the phone, structure the conversation, and look at ways to work through it together.
Excellent. Thanks, John. Let me just have a look at what other questions have come through. Well, another one has been, I'm fine for work for the next few weeks, but after that, nothing. What do you recommend? Yeah,
it's interesting. We've got a number of people we're working with right now who are probably a little bit lazy at the moment. No, I'm okay, I've got work for the next 3 months. And I said, well, that's today. How do you know those projects may not be put off? So we've got a client in Melbourne who had a $1.3 million large electrical contract that has just been delayed, just like that. Last week it was on, this week it's off. So if you're complacent and you think you're okay at the moment, now is the time to just wipe that smirk off your face and double down on all of your communication. Now's the time not to, because complacency is the biggest enemy of success, because you just don't want to be here for 3 months. As we said before, one of the number one things we know about this is we don't know. We don't know how long things are going to be like they are for. So protect and prepare. Protect the relationships, protect the jobs that you've got in the schedule right now, protect the customers and the relationships you've got there, and look at what you can be doing to plant seed on the other side. If you've got 3 months of work booked up, fantastic, because that's been a result of what you've created last year. But now is also the time to pivot and look at what other solutions you can be providing your target audience. Complacency is no place for complacency right
now. Excellent. Oh, awesome. Thanks, John. There's quite a few coming through, but another one is team focus that I've seen is I'm not that great at communication with my team about their future as it is uncertain. So what should I say?
Yeah. This is the time that you don't want to pretend you've got all the answers. I think I've hopefully learned is you don't want to think that you've got all the answers and you know how to answer all the questions, because this is the time to be vulnerable and open and share the reality that you don't know what's going to happen. We've got another business up here on the Sunshine Coast, and we had to let 14 people go last week. That wasn't an easy thing to do. So I know how challenging it is for some of you to have those conversations. So I'll implore you to just tell the whole truth. What I mean by that is, if you've got to have a chat to your team about where the future is, something like this would be perfect. Hey guys, and maybe it's an individual thing. I think individual conversations are more important than ever right now. And the conversation could be, hey guys, one of the things that I'm really committed to as a business owner is that we work through this as a team and get to the other side and even be in a stronger position. The reality is right now, I don't know what that could look like. And I don't think you could either. And these are some conversations as a business owner I've never had to have before. And I'm really out of my depth. That's that vulnerability around leadership, Gargi, that I was talking about. I'm out of my depth. But you know what? I want to look at some solutions. I want to work through this together, because the work isn't there right now for a full-time team, and I want to look at ways we can be flexible with our roster, and want to check in with you how your personal situation is, and look at some solutions together. And I think that approach, Gargi, has worked really well in the last couple of weeks, particularly with business owners who have never had to have those conversations before. Don't try and BS your way through this. Don't try and pretend that you've got your stuff sorted, because you haven't. and people will smell that. And I think if you've got a good culture in your team and you've got a good vision and you're stepping up as a leader, people will support you. People will be with you through this. And you also identify the people who you shouldn't have on your team, because they're the ones who will go, no, I bugger you, mate. I'm going to go and get everything I possibly can. So obviously there's changes with the job seeker package, which I'm not here to talk about tonight. And that's not legislated yet, by the way. So don't go banking on anything just yet, but I'm sure there'll be some confidence there for business owners as well. So I trust it helps, Gargi.
Yeah, it definitely does. Had quite a few questions about team and communication. So that was great. Thank you, John.
All right. So I'm just escaping this just for a little while. I'll bring up my control panel and I'll bring this back up. So I might just get any final comments. I'd love to see what you found valuable, what you may be excited about for your business moving forward. Get advice first. Got any? Pick up the phone, minimize emails and SMS. Yeah, no time to hide situation and scenario.
Yeah.
So, and I think one of the other things that, as I said, we're looking at supporting, particularly over the next 3 to 6 months. So, again, looking forward to connecting with your team and supporting you as a business owner through this. So, anything else, Gargi, we need to cover off on there, do you think?
No, I just wanted to let everyone know if you did have any queries or questions or wanted to connect with ourselves, one of the team, and the poll's closed, that's all good. You're more than welcome to connect with us through the email that was sent through, the text message, which had our email address and our contact number. But otherwise, I'll let you guys know now. It's 1300 767 774. So if you wanted to connect with us, even if you just want to have a chat or talk about or get the recording or learn more about what John was mentioning, feel free to do so. The recording will also be sent across to you over the next few days. So you're more than welcome to rewatch that and learn a few more things, because I know that we went through it, covered quite a bit of content. So you learn some new things each time, for sure.
Yeah, lovely. And so here's the thing, guys, you will get through, get the support. There's no silly question today in business. There's no silly question, only a silly person who doesn't ask. So be on the phone, connect with us. We'd love to help you through this and see you thrive if possible on the journey. So thanks so much, Gargi. Thank you guys for joining in tonight. All the best to you, your family, your team, and the relationships you've built. Remember what matters most at this point in time, and look forward to meeting you in person if we've never done that before, and connecting with you to support you through this. Thanks very much.